It is possible that a single entity is responsible for some of the most potent and chaotic magic in the Marvel Universe. In addition to hearing rumors of the dreaded Darkhold, a book of unimaginable power, we have witnessed Scarlet Witch manipulate reality to her will. But what if the author of that book, the cause of all that chaos, is a much older and more terrifying entity than you can imagine? So let's get right into it. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What are Chthons Origins? The Earth's very own life force, a sentient being called the Demiurge, ignited life on the planet approximately 4 billion years ago, at the beginning of our world. A strong and ancient race known as the Elder Gods was created as a result of this incident. Among the most prominent of these first beings were the siblings Chthon, Set, Gia, and Ashtur. Weird names to pronounce, I know, but stay with me. These elder gods spread across the young world and held dominion over it for 1 million years. Chthon, who became the first practitioner of black magic on the planet, was captivated by the mystical energies of the universe during this time. How did the elder gods degenerate? After about 1 billion years, things started to go south. Most of the elder gods got greedy and twisted, turning into straight-up demons that hunted each other for more power. But Gia wasn't one of them. She stayed pure and grew worried about all the new, fragile life just starting to form in Earth's oceans. She went to the big boss, the Demiurge, and asked for a weapon to deal with the demon problem. She then went deep inside the planet and gave birth to Atom, who was the first of a brand new kind of god. Atom immediately went to work, traveling the globe, taking out the corrupted demons and absorbing all their dark energy. But all that power had a cost. He transformed into a monstrous creature himself, earning the name Demigorge, the God Eater. Seeing this new force, Chthon knew he had to get out of there. He cleverly dodged the God Eater by creating his own personal dimension, a place called the Flickering Realms. This new reality, along with his brother Set's dimension, became one of the first planes of existence right next to Earth. But before he peaced out, Chthon left a little something behind. Deep in a cave inside a mountain that would one day be known as Mount Wundagore, he wrote down everything he knew about dark magic. He put it all on scrolls that couldn't be destroyed, creating a book we now call the Darkhold. He left it on Earth to act as a permanent connection, a doorway back to our world if he ever decided to return. Interestingly, some folks believe the Darkhold wasn't entirely his own work. One theory suggests its contents were first etched onto the walls of a nightmarish ancient city by horrifying beings known as the Great Old Ones. The story goes that Chthon was actually the mightiest of these creatures, even though he's more commonly known as an elder god. Safely in his own dimension, Chthon had complete control. He even created a demonic race called the Ungurai, and gave them their own little corner within his reality to call home. Did Chthon continue influencing Earth? Even though Chthon was trapped in his own dimension, it was close enough to Earth that he could still mess with things here. The deal was that the remaining big-shot gods, Chthon, Set, Gia, and Ashtur, would each stay in their own lane and not meddle in each other's territory. Since Earth was Gia's turf, Chthon was banned from ever coming back. If he did, he'd have to face the wrath of a god-eating entity called the Demigorge. Still, that didn't stop him from finding loopholes. He couldn't come to Earth directly, but he created a bunch of demon races to do his dirty work for him. These creatures weren't part of the original deal, so they could pop over to our world and cause all sorts of chaos on his behalf. And if someone was foolish enough to use spells in the Darkhold, he could grant them power in exchange for their soul. How was Chthon bound in medieval times? Fast forward to medieval times, and you've got the famous sorceress Morgan Le Fay getting into the mix. She started a fan club for the Darkhold, a cult of mystics who thought they could summon Chthon and make him their personal magical attack dog. The thing is, being invited back to Earth by the people living there was a clever loophole in the deal Chthon had with the other elder gods. But, surprise, surprise, a god of pure chaos wasn't about to follow anyone's orders. The cult quickly realized they had made a massive mistake. They couldn't kick him out of our dimension completely, like the gods did way back when, but they did manage to trap his essence in one specific spot on Earth, a mountain called Wundagore, located in what we now know as Transia. The Darkhold itself ended up stashed away in Morgan's old tower, locked down with spells to keep anyone from using it. But then this good guy mystic from the time of Camelot, a fella named Modred, decided he was going to try and use the book's power for good. Bad idea. A creepy piece of Chthon's consciousness, known as the Other, appeared and tried to make a deal for Modred's soul. Modred initially told the demon to get lost. But just then, his girlfriend Janice walked into the tower, right into Chthon's field of influence. To save her, Modred made the ultimate sacrifice and gave up his own soul. After that whole mess, the legendary Merlin teamed up with another magic user named Brendan to fight off the Other and its minions. Once they were banished, Brendan had the bright idea to rip the pages out of the Darkhold and scatter them all over the world so no one could ever assemble it again. Of course, that didn't stick. A monk who had started worshipping Chthon went on a scavenger hunt and managed to put the whole evil book back together again. And as if all that wasn't enough, Chthon was also making other dark deals on the side. For his own reasons, he made a pact with a spirit named Sagbada, and together they created an army of reanimated corpses. Yep, the very first zombies. What is Chthon's personality like? He gets pleasure out of psychologically torturing people. Take Modred, who gave up his soul. Just for his own sick amusement, Chthon would occasionally loosen his grip, allowing Modred to realize the horrific truth that he was just a pawn in a god's game. Imagine the sheer terror of that brief moment of clarity. And just as Modred would start desperately trying to break free, Chthon would yank the chain and take full control again, simply because the fun was over. Believe it or not, Chthon was also driven by a need to understand the world, much like his sister Ashtur. Over countless centuries, he'd been picking apart humanity, trying to figure out what makes us tick, but he kept getting surprised by what he found. This freaked him out. This all-powerful ancient god couldn't stand being thrown for a loop by what he considered to be lower life forms. So, to try and get a read on humanity and predict our actions, he was constantly setting up tests and poking us with a stick just to see what we'd do. What attributes does Chthon possess? Just how powerful is Chthon? You have to remember, Chthon is not a random demon. He's an elder god, one of the original, most powerful beings to ever exist on Earth. Think of it this way. He has an almost limitless ability to control magical energy, meaning he can bend and shape reality to do pretty much anything he can imagine. As for what he looks like, that's a bit tricky. We've seen him pop up in a humanoid shape before, but he's a shapeshifter and can appear in all sorts of different forms. What his true, actual form looks like, that's a complete mystery. And honestly, it's probably something we're better off not knowing. The less we know, the better. What are Chthon's powers? He's the master of what's known as black magic or chaos magic. We're talking about a level of power that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. This isn't just about throwing fireballs. It's the ability to literally rewrite the fabric of reality itself to match whatever you want. With this kind of magic, you could tear down the entire cosmos. And in that personal dimension he's trapped in, he's a god in the truest sense. He controls every single aspect of that reality. It's his own private universe where he makes all the rules. He's also a world-class telepath. He can read your thoughts, control your mind, and talk to you from across dimensions. There's really no hiding from him. Now here's where the deals with the devil come in. He can actually lend his power to spellcasters here on Earth who call upon him. The catch? The moment you accept his help, your soul belongs to him. It's a one-way ticket. Since he can't just waltz back to Earth whenever he wants, he has a workaround. He can send a piece of himself, a kind of avatar known as the Other. This thing gets summoned whenever someone starts messing with the Darkhold. The Other can look like whatever it wants, but its actions are usually tied to whatever the person using the book is trying to accomplish. He can also possess people. If someone performs the right kind of dark ritual, Chthon can take over their body. But here's the problem for him. He's so powerful that a normal human body can't handle all of his energy. Even a tiny fraction of his true power is usually enough to burn out his host like a cheap light bulb. And just to add to the horror, he is immortal. He once told Scarlet Witch that, as an elder god, he doesn't even need a heart to live. On top of all that cosmic and magical power, he's also just physically overwhelming. His strength is practically infinite. He never gets tired, and he's almost completely immune to any kind of physical harm. What abilities does Chthon have? Let's talk about Chthon's brain and his library of evil. He's not just powerful, he's a genius, with an insane level of knowledge about all the dark, mystical forces in the universe. He's the one who wrote the book on evil magic. That book, The Darkhold, is his life's work, a catalog of all the nastiest spells from the other demonic elder gods. He didn't just write it for kicks. His ultimate goal was for the Darkhold to be the key that would let him return to Earth. And this book is something else. It's completely indestructible for starters. It can also apparently change its appearance. I mean, Chthon created it millions of years ago before people were even around. But when we finally stumbled upon it, it looked like a bunch of scrolls with human writing. Now here's the really messed up part about using the Darkhold. Most people who try to use its spells fall completely under Chthon's mental control. They become his puppets. You need a will of absolute iron, or be someone with a ton of mystical training, like Doctor Strange, to even stand a chance of resisting him. To give you a sense of the book's power, even the legendary Merlin, probably the greatest sorcerer of all time, couldn't destroy it. He had to team up with another powerful mystic named Brendan, and all the two of them could do was contain it. Remember Modred? He was convinced that if he could master the Darkhold, he'd be strong enough to challenge Merlin himself. That's the kind of power we're talking about. But here's the final mind-blowing twist. It turns out the Darkhold that everyone has been fighting over for centuries isn't even the original. It's a copy of a copy. The real Darkhold is still out there somewhere. What are Chthon's weaknesses? First and foremost, he's stuck. Without his trusty Darkhold, Chthon is trapped in his own personal dimension. It would take a ridiculous amount of mystical energy to create a rift big enough to move his power from one reality to another. On top of that, Gaia, the elder god who owns the deed to Earth, has put up these massive magical force fields around our planet. Over the centuries, hundreds of human sorcerers have made these barriers even stronger, so Chthon can't just pop over for a visit without some serious complex and elaborate planning. Next, there's the issue of him needing a physical host. When Chthon possesses a person on Earth, it's a double-edged sword. Sure, he gets access to that person's body and abilities, but he also inherits all of their weaknesses. This makes him way more vulnerable, both physically and mentally. For example, a human sorcerer needs their mind and mouth to cast spells. If you could disrupt the host's brain or just shut them up, even in a totally non-magical way, you could temporarily cut Chthon off from his magic. Then there's Wundagore Mountain. That mountain in Transia is the anchor point for his power on Earth. If you could somehow destroy it, you'd seriously hurt him. The problem? The mountain is packed with uranium. Blowing it up would take the entire country of Transia off the map, and that's not exactly an easy solution. He also has a specific vulnerability to what's known as Eldritch magic. Ironically, this includes some of the very spells found within his own creation, the Darkhold. You could theoretically fight fire with fire. And finally, the ultimate ace in the hole against him, the true Darkhold. Remember how the book everyone was using was just a copy of a copy? Well, the real deal is so powerful that it was the key to his defeat. It's what allowed Scarlet Witch to ultimately take him down and absorb his power. What trivia surrounds Chthon? His name carries a lot of weight in the magical world. Even a cosmic heavy hitter like Dormammu once used an artifact called the Cauldron of Chthon in a spell to try and plunge the entire world into eternal darkness. When Dormammu is borrowing from your brand, you know you're a big deal in the dark magic scene. And he wasn't just on the radar of mystics. At one point, the powerful mutant known as Exodus stood before Wundagore Mountain, and he could literally see the power radiating from it. His first thought was about how he could take that power for himself. Then you have the long list of people who got tangled up with the Darkhold, and by extension, with Chthon himself. This book has a nasty habit of finding its way into the hands of desperate or power-hungry people. We're talking about a whole rogues gallery of folks who were granted power, from regular people like Donald Walsh and Sarah Roberts to more sinister figures like Reverend Stige. Even some more well-known characters, like Morbius the Living Vampire, got juiced up by the Darkhold at one point. It even created a version of Spider-Man called Spider-X. Speaking of Spidey, Chthon was actually the main bad guy in a storyline called Spider-Man Requiem, which shows just how big of a threat he can be. And there was a moment when Chthon gave Scarlet Witch a vision of what would happen if he successfully invaded Earth. In that nightmare scenario, he also revealed a critical weakness. He showed her that Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, had the potential to stop his invasion. Of course, in the vision he showed Wanda, he made sure to include Valeria being killed. That's just how he is always playing mind games. Marvelous verdict. And that's a wrap. What do you think? Have we seen the last of Chthon, or is it only a matter of time before he reemerges to reclaim his dark hold over reality? Let me know your theories down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more videos, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.